Can you be brave even if you have fears? Can you still achieve happiness even if you are suffering? You might be feeling weak, dejected, and alone right now. If someone asks you, "How are you?" you might say you're fine, pretending that you're okay and functioning like everything is going well with your life, even if you're really downcast deep inside. You might have to put on a brave face and show them that nothing will bother you, so they will not get worried, even if you're afraid of many things right now. I am Erica Fondevilla, and in today's episode, I will share poems about fear and suffering. Those kinds that will make you feel that it is okay not to be okay. It is normal to have fears, and there's always a light at the end of a tunnel. The first poem that you are going to listen to is from Sylvia Plath. Sylvia Plath was one of the most dynamic and highly respected poets of the 20th century. She was an American novelist and poet who was posthumously awarded Pulitzer Prize in 1982, becoming the fourth one. She suffered from a long-time depression and committed suicide. Plath was known for advancing the genre of confessional poetry, as she puts the speaker herself at the center of her poems. Having once said that she thought her poems immediately came out of the sensuous and emotional experiences she had. Mirror is one of the examples of her confessional poems. She used personification and revealed the sufferings a woman has as she gets old and begins to lose her youthfulness. Mirror by Sylvia Plath. I am silver and exact. I have no preconceptions. Whatever I see, I swallow immediately, just as it is, unmisted by love or dislike. I am not cruel, only truthful. The eye of a little god, four-cornered. Most of the time, I meditate on the opposite wall. It is pink with speckles. I have looked at it so long, I think it is part of my heart. But it flickers. Faces and darkness separates us over and over. Now I am a lake. A woman bends over me, searching my reaches for what she really is. Then she turns to those liars, the candles or the moon. I see her back and reflect it faithfully. She rewards me with tears and an agitation of hands. Each morning it is her face that replaces the darkness. In me she has drowned a young girl, and in me an old woman rises toward her day after day, like a terrible fish. They say that a mirror never lies. It shows you how exactly what something should look like, whether you'll be disgusted or not at the sight of it. Just as Plath described the mirror as I am silver and exact. When we look at our reflection in the mirror, how do we feel? Do you love what you're seeing? Or you're slowly getting tired of your face because you cannot see the gleam of your happiness in the past? Are you afraid to look now because you would see how much you've aged and how you can never retrieve your younger self? Those are what the mirror in Plath's poem is trying to throw at us. That a mirror never lies. It shows you the truth. Whether we accept it and get hurt, or we ignore it and keep fooling ourselves. She also used the words, now I am a lake, a woman bends over me, to show how we struggle to find our identity, just how we are having a hard time trying to find a reflection in the water. It's unclear, right? It's unstable. After reading this poem, I immediately look at myself in the mirror. What I was trying to see was not how I look, but the truth of my identity. Do I still know the person I'm staring at in the mirror? They say that we know ourselves better than everyone else. But what would happen if the reflection we see is not the person we know? Scary, huh? But it happens. We sometimes lose our identity in the process. But remember that we have many choices in hand to rediscover ourselves and accept the changes happening to us, giving us enough time to regain our true selves and be the best person we could ever be. Our second poem is from a prolific English poet. Elizabeth Jennings is famous for her lyric poetry and form mastery. Her religion inspired her imagination and colored much of her work. She was deemed the Bag Lady of the Sonnets, a title that tabloid newspapers called her when she was honored by the Queen in 1992. Her poems' usual themes are love, death, and religion, for it meant to engage many people who have suffered in the same way she had or who have shared similar experiences. An example of this is the poem I will read, a poem about the lightness and darkness in our lives. A Word of Light by Elizabeth Jennings. Yes, when the dark withdrew, I suffered light, and saw the candles heave beneath the wax. I watched the shadow of my old self dwindle, as softly on my recollection stole, a mood the senses could not touch or damage, a sense of peace beyond the breathing word. Day dawdled at my elbow. It was night within. I saw my hands, their soft dark backs keeping me from the noise outside. The candle seemed snuffed into a deep and silent pool. It threw no shadow round my constant image, for in a dazzling dark my spirit steered. But still I questioned it. My inward sight still knew the senses and the senses' tracks. I felt my flesh and clothes, a rubbing sandal, and distant voices wishing to console. My mind was keen to understand and rummage, to find assurance in the sounds I heard. Then senses ceased and the thoughts were driven quite away. No work of mine. I could relax and feel a fire no earnest prayer can kindle. Old parts of peace dissolved into a whole, and like a bright thing proud in its new plumage, my mind was keen as an attentive bird. Yes, fire, light, air, birds, wax, the sun's own height I draw from now, but every image breaks. Only a child's simplicity can handle such moments, when the hottest fire feels cool, and every breath is like a sudden homage, the peace that penetrates and is not feared. Okay, this poem is written in free verse and is full of imagery. A World of Light is how Elizabeth Jennings showed her preference for dark compared to light. She expressed a stark contrast to the typical depiction of light as being good and dark as being evil. As you read the poem, you might think that it was full of ambiguity, but it seems to explore how we feel and deal with every situation coming into our lives. There's a line in the third stanza saying, "But I still questioned it." I find it interesting. It shows that the speaker is aware of everything and thinks it shouldn't be the way they are. The narrator looked deep within, questioned what she or he is feeling inside. As you go through the remaining stanzas, you will see how the speaker's doubts and worries are being swept away, and all the questions in mind were dissipating. It seems like the narrator learned how to deal with the predicament. A line from the fifth stanza, "And every breath is like a sudden homage," suggests that they are becoming comfortable and are now grasping peace without fear. Overall, this poem teaches how to comfort yourself in times of lightness and darkness, and make the best out of every situation. Again, unfortunately, we are now down in the last minutes of our today's episode. So, how are you feeling? If you still have these pent-up, bottled-up emotions deep inside, it's time to let it out. It's okay to cry, feel tired, and be weak. We all have our shares of fears and sufferings, and one way to cope with this is to acknowledge that we have this. Admit it to ourselves. We are sometimes afraid and we are struggling. If you feel tired and hopeless, rest. Whatever you did today is enough. Lastly, please remember that your feelings are valid. whatever you're dealing with right now, you deserve all the happiness in this world.